The cathedral bells tolled mockingly as Olivia Winters stood alone at the altar, the elaborate train of her wedding gown pooling around her feet like spilled dreams. 60 minutes had passed since the ceremony was supposed to begin. 60 excruciating minutes of pitying glances and whispered speculation from 200 guests. Daniel wasn't coming. "I think we should consider the possibility that," her maid of honor Natalie began, her voice gentle but strained. "He's not coming," Olivia finished, surprising herself with the steadiness of her voice, despite the hurricane of emotions inside her. She clutched her wilting bouquet, knuckles white against the ivory ribbon. Pastor Williams approached with compassionate eyes. "My dear, perhaps we should—" Olivia didn't hear the rest. Something inside her snapped, a dam breaking after holding back a flood. Without a word, she gathered her skirts and ran down the aisle, past the shocked faces of friends and family, past her father reaching out to stop her, past the expensive floral arrangements that had cost months of savings. The heavy church doors slammed behind her as she burst into the bright June sunshine, tears finally breaking free. Her heels clacked desperately against the pavement as she fled, no destination in mind beyond escape. She rounded the corner at full speed and collided hard with something solid, someone solid. Strong hands steadied her as she stumbled backward, nearly losing her balance. "Whoa there!" said a deep voice, its owner still holding her by the shoulders. Olivia looked up into the most striking face she'd ever seen. The man before her was tall and impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit that suggested wealth without flaunting it. His jawline could cut glass, complemented by intense amber eyes that studied her with surprise and concern. "I'm so sorry," she stammered, painfully aware of her running mascara and disheveled appearance. The stranger's expression shifted from surprise to understanding as he took in her wedding dress, tear-streaked face, and the absence of a groom. "Bad day?" he asked, the ghost of a smile playing at the corner of his mouth. Olivia let out a sound between a laugh and a sob. "You could say that." Behind her, the church doors opened, voices calling her name. Panic seized her again. She couldn't face them, couldn't bear their pity or questions. The stranger followed her gaze, then looked back at her with sudden decision in his eyes. He nodded toward a sleek black Bentley parked nearby. "Need an escape?" "I don't even know you," Olivia whispered, though she was already inching toward the car. "Julian Reed," he said simply, opening the passenger door. "And sometimes strangers make the best getaway drivers." The voices grew louder. Her mother's distinct call pierced the air. "Olivia! Decision time. Stay and face humiliation or flee with this handsome stranger." It was reckless, possibly dangerous, and completely unlike her, which made it exactly what she needed. She slid into the leather seat, wedding dress billowing around her. Julian closed her door and rounded the car, sliding into the driver's seat with graceful efficiency. The engine purred to life. "Where to?" he asked, pulling away from the curb just as her father appeared on the church steps. "Anywhere but here," Olivia said, watching her old life recede in the side mirror. Julian navigated through downtown traffic with confident ease. "You know, most women I meet aren't wearing wedding dresses. Most men I meet don't offer getaway cars to runaway brides," she countered, surprising herself with the hint of humor in her voice. He glanced at her, something warm and unexpected in his gaze. "Sometimes life's worst moments lead to better destinations." Olivia stared at him, this stranger who'd appeared exactly when she needed someone. "Why are you helping me?" Julian was quiet for a moment, then said 3 words that somehow anchored her in the chaos. "Trust me now." And strangely, inexplicably, she did. Julian's "anywhere but here" turned out to be a breathtaking cliffside estate overlooking the Pacific. The modernist mansion of glass and stone seemed to emerge organically from the rocky coastline, waves crashing dramatically below. "This is your house?" Olivia asked incredulously as the Bentley wound up the private drive. One of them, Julian replied with casual understatement. The guest house is separate and fully furnished. You can stay as long as you need to sort things out. Olivia stiffened. I can't accept that. You've already been kind enough with the rescue, but consider it humanitarian aid, he interrupted, parking in front of the main house. You need somewhere to regroup that isn't crawling with well-meaning friends asking questions you don't want to answer. He wasn't wrong. Her phone had buzzed incessantly until she'd finally turned it off. 43 missed calls. 68. Text messages. The thought of facing anyone made her physically ill. Just tonight, she conceded reluctantly. Tomorrow I'll figure things out. Julian nodded, leading her to a charming two-bedroom structure nestled among cypress trees. Inside, floor-to-ceiling windows framed the ocean view, while minimalist furnishings in creams and blues created a peaceful sanctuary. There are clothes in the bedroom, Julian explained. My sister stays occasionally and keeps things here. Help yourself to anything. Later, freed from her wedding dress and wrapped in borrowed silk pajamas, Olivia sat on the deck watching twilight paint the horizon in watercolor purples. The sound of approaching footsteps made her turn. Julian carried 2 glasses of amber liquid. Thought you might need this. Thank you. She accepted the drink, their fingers brushing momentarily. For everything. He settled into the adjacent chair. Want to talk about it? Not particularly. Fair enough. They sat in surprisingly comfortable silence until Olivia spoke. Have you ever trusted someone completely, only to discover you never really knew them at all? Julian's expression darkened. Yes. My business partner, Thomas. We built Reed Innovations together from nothing. Then I discovered he'd been embezzling for years while sleeping with my fiancée, Victoria. That's... Olivia winced. Spectacularly awful? Julian offered with a wry smile. It was. But it taught me valuable lessons about trust and judgment. Daniel and I were together 5 years, Olivia found herself saying. This morning I thought I knew exactly how my life would unfold. Now I'm drinking with a stranger wearing another woman's clothes. Life rarely follows the script we write for it. No. Kidding. Olivia took another sip, appreciating the burn. Your sister won't mind me borrowing her things? Julian's smile faltered slightly. Charlotte died 3 years ago. Cancer. I keep her things here because I'm not ready to let them go. I'm so sorry, Olivia whispered, mortified. Don't be. She'd be delighted they're being used, especially by someone who needed them. Something in his gentle tone broke through Olivia's carefully maintained composure. Tears flowed freely as weeks of pre-wedding stress, today's humiliation, and the sheer absurdity of her situation overwhelmed her. Julian didn't offer platitudes or awkward comfort. He simply sat beside her, a steady presence while she released her grief. When her tears finally subsided, he spoke softly. The worst part isn't the heartbreak. It's the embarrassment of being so thoroughly fooled. Olivia looked up, surprised by his insight. Exactly. For what it's worth, Julian added, Daniel is clearly an idiot of monumental proportions. A startled laugh escaped her. You don't even know me. I know enough. His amber eyes held hers with unexpected intensity. I know courage when I see it. Something shifted between them in that moment. Something neither was prepared to acknowledge, but both distinctly felt. As the last light faded from the sky, Olivia realized the day that had begun with one life-shattering had somehow planted the seeds for something entirely new. Part 3. Shadows of the Past. 3 weeks passed in unexpected tranquility. Olivia's just tonight stretched into days, then weeks, as Julian's guest house became her refuge. She'd finally spoken with her parents and closest friends, arranged for her belongings to be moved from the apartment she'd shared with Daniel, and begun freelance graphic design work from the sunlit desk overlooking the ocean. Julian had become... what exactly? Friend seemed insufficient for the man who'd witnessed her at her most vulnerable, yet anything more felt presumptuous. They'd fallen into comfortable routines, morning coffee on the deck, occasional shared dinners, long walks along the private beach. He respected her space while somehow always being available when she needed company. This particular morning, Olivia hummed as she prepared breakfast, a sense of renewal replacing her earlier grief. The sound of tires on gravel interrupted her thoughts. Through the window, she watched a familiar car approach. Her stomach dropped. Daniel. Abandoning the half-made omelet, Olivia stepped onto the deck just as Daniel emerged from his BMW, looking haggard but determined. "How did you find me?" she demanded. "Your friend Natalie." It took considerable persuasion. He approached cautiously. "Liv, please. 5 minutes." "You had 5 years," she replied coldly. "You forfeited any right to my time when you left me standing, alone, in a cathedral. I panicked, made the biggest mistake of my life." His voice cracked with what seemed like genuine remorse. "But I'm here now, begging for another chance." Before Olivia could respond, Julian's Bentley pulled up behind Daniel's car. Something like territorial hostility flashed across Daniel's face. "Is this why you wouldn't return my calls? You've been shacking up with some random guy?" Julian approached with dangerous calm. "I suggest you moderate your tone and assumptions." "This is between me and my fiancé," Daniel snapped. "Ex-fiancé," Olivia corrected sharply. "And Julian has been nothing but respectful, which is more than I can say for you." A sleek red convertible suddenly roared up the drive, completing the surreal gathering. A striking brunette emerged, her expression thunderous. "Rebecca," Julian said, his body tensing. "This isn't a good time." "When is it ever?" The woman marched toward them, stilettos clicking aggressively. "You're ignoring my calls again, Julian." Olivia watched the scene unfold with growing discomfort. The woman, Rebecca, noticed her and paused, evaluating Olivia with calculating eyes. "New project, Julian? You always did have a thing for damaged." "Goods." Julian's jaw tightened. "That's enough, Rebecca." "Is it?" Rebecca turned to Olivia with false sweetness. "Has he told you about his pattern? Rescuing broken women, fixing them up, then losing interest once they're whole again? It's quite the savior complex." Doubt crept into Olivia's mind, poisoning the tentative trust she'd built. Was that all she was to Julian? A charity case? A temporary project? "Don't listen to her," Julian said quietly. "Rebecca and I have a complicated history." "Uncomplicate it for her, then," Rebecca challenged. "Tell her about Victoria, about Elise, about me. Tell her what happens when your rescue missions develop inconvenient feelings." Daniel stepped closer to Olivia, sensing advantage. "You don't know this man, Liv. Come home. We can work through this." Caught between her past and her uncertain present, Olivia felt walls closing in. The sanctuary Julian had offered was suddenly crowded with ghosts, his and hers. "I need space," she announced, backing away from all of them. From everyone. She retreated to the guest house, locking the door behind her. Through the window, she watched Julian dismissing both unwanted visitors. With firm authority, when they finally departed, he remained standing in the driveway, staring at the ocean with hands thrust deep in his pockets. He didn't come to check on her. Somehow, that respect for her request made the tangled emotions even more confusing. Was Rebecca right? Was Julian's kindness merely habitual rescue of damaged women? Or was Daniel right that she was running from their problems? The only certainty was the hollowness in her chest when she imagined leaving the cliffside haven and the man who had become inexplicably essential to her healing. Rain lashed against the windows as Olivia paced the guest house, 3 days of self-imposed isolation having clarified nothing. Daniel had sent flowers. Rebecca had emailed helpful details about Julian's romantic history. Both had been promptly discarded. Julian had respected her request for space with maddening perfection. No calls, no visits, just a single handwritten note. When you're ready to talk, or not talk, I'm here. A sudden power outage plunged the guest house into darkness. Olivia fumbled for her phone, using its light to locate candles in the kitchen. A knock at the door startled her. Julian stood on the threshold, rain-soaked and holding a flashlight. Storm knocked out the power. The generator should kick in soon, but I wanted to check on you. Something about seeing him, drenched, concerned, respectful of her boundaries even now, broke through her final defenses. "Come in," she said, stepping aside. He entered cautiously, water dripping from his hair. "I've missed you," he admitted, simply. The honesty in his voice undid her. "I've missed you too. Rebecca is manipulative and bitter about our past. Whatever she told you—" "Is it true?" Olivia interrupted. "Do you make a habit of rescuing women?" Julian set down the flashlight, its beam creating dramatic shadows across his face. "I've helped people who needed it. Sometimes those people were women. Sometimes those relationships became complicated. And that's what I am. Complicated. You're unlike anyone I've ever met." His voice dropped lower. "And yes, that terrifies me." The generator hummed to life, but neither moved to turn. On the lights, the intimacy of darkness felt necessary for the truths hovering between them. "Daniel wants me back," Olivia said. "I know." Julian stepped closer. "What do you want, Olivia?" The question hung in the rain-scented air. What did she want? Security? Daniel represented familiar disappointment. Freedom? She'd always had that option. But standing before Julian, she recognized her true desire was much simpler and infinitely more frightening. "You," she whispered. "I want you." Something fierce and possessive flashed in his eyes before he closed the distance between them. His kiss was nothing like she'd imagined, and she had imagined it countless times over the past weeks. It was reverent, yet demanding, controlled, yet desperate. Olivia's fingers tangled in his wet hair as the kiss deepened, years of caution dissolving in the storm's electricity. His hands traced her curves with meticulous attention, learning her body's language. "I've wanted this since I saw you running from that church," he confessed against her throat. They moved together toward the bedroom, shedding layers of clothing and inhibition. His touch awakened sensations she'd forgotten were possible, or perhaps had never truly experienced before. When they finally came together, the connection transcended physical pleasure. Communicating everything they hadn't yet, found words to express. Afterward, lying in tangled sheets listening to the storm, Julian traced patterns on her bare shoulder. "I'm not good at relationships, Olivia. I keep people at a distance." "I noticed," she murmured, pressing closer to his warmth. "But with you—" He seemed to struggle for words. "I want to try, if you'll be patient with me." The vulnerability in his admission touched her deeply. "I'm not exactly relationship expert of the year myself. We're quite the pair, aren't we?" He smiled against her hair. "Maybe that's why we work." Morning brought clarity and complications. Over coffee, Julian received a call that visibly disturbed him. After a terse conversation, he turned to Olivia with regret in his eyes. "I have to fly to Singapore tonight. Business emergency." "How long?" 2 weeks minimum." He hesitated. "Come with me." The invitation thrilled and frightened her. "Julian, I can't just—" "Why not?" he challenged. "What's keeping you here?" The question struck deeper than he intended. What was keeping her? Fear? Uncertainty? The remnants of a life she'd outgrown? "I need time," she said finally. "This is moving so fast." Something shuddered in his expression. "I understand." But he didn't. Not really. And as he left to pack, Olivia wondered if they'd just built something beautiful only to watch it crumble before it could truly begin. Part 5. Second Chance. Vows. 6 weeks passed without Julian. 6 weeks of silence after their one attempt at a phone call had ended in painful misunderstanding. Olivia had moved into a small apartment in the city, resumed her career with renewed focus, and tried to convince herself that their brief connection had been merely part of her recovery, nothing more. She was failing miserably at that self-deception. A rainy Friday evening, Olivia trudged up the stairs to her apartment, arms laden with groceries. She nearly dropped them when she saw who waited outside her door. Julian stood there looking simultaneously exhausted and electrified. His normally perfect appearance was slightly rumpled, as if he'd stepped off a long flight and come straight to her. "You're back," she stated unnecessarily, pulse racing traitorously. "I've been back for 3 days," he replied. "It took that long to arrange everything." "Arrange what?" "I'll show you, if you'll come with me." Wisdom urged caution, but Olivia had long since realized her heart no longer listened to wisdom where Julian was concerned. "Let me change first." 30 minutes later, Julian's Bentley pulled up to the cliffside estate. Everything looked the same, yet somehow different. Or perhaps she was the one who had changed. "Why are we here?" she asked, as he led her not toward the main house or guest house, but down a winding path to the cliff edge. "Because this is where it began, where you started to heal, where I started to feel again." The path opened to a circular clearing overlooking the ocean. Olivia gasped. Hundreds of lanterns illuminated the space, creating a cathedral of light under the darkening sky. In the center stood a simple wooden arch draped with white flowers. "What is this?" she whispered. Julian took her hands, his expression more open and vulnerable than she'd ever seen. "6 weeks ago, I asked you to drop everything and follow me, with no assurances, no promises. It was unfair and selfish. I was afraid of naming what I felt, what I feel for you." He guided her to the center of the lantern-lit circle. "I don't want to rescue you anymore, Olivia. I want to stand beside you as an equal. I want to build something lasting with you." "Julian, please, let me finish." He took a deep breath. "I've spent my life keeping people at a safe distance because I feared losing them. But losing you these past weeks taught me that safety isn't the absence of pain. It's finding someone worth risking everything for." He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small velvet box. "This isn't a proposal. Not yet. It's a promise. A vow that I'm committed to discovering where this journey leads us with patience and honesty." Inside the box lay a delicate silver ring set with a single perfect pearl. "A pearl forms around an irritation," Julian explained softly. "Something painful transforms into something precious, like us." Tears blurred Olivia's vision as everything crystallized with perfect clarity. The emptiness she'd felt these past weeks wasn't about dependence or rebound emotions. It was the absence of the person who had become essential to her happiness. "I was afraid," she admitted. "Afraid that what I felt was gratitude or confusion. Afraid of trusting my judgment after being so wrong about Daniel." "And now?" Julian asked, hope and fear mingled in his eyes. Olivia took the ring and slipped it onto her right hand, a beginning, not an ending. "Now I know the difference between settling for familiar disappointment and choosing courageous joy." She stepped closer, framing his face with her hands. "I don't need rescuing anymore, but I do need you." The kiss they shared beneath the lantern, light held all the promise of their uncertain, exhilarating future. Not a fairy tale ending, but something far more valuable, an authentic beginning. As twilight deepened around them, Olivia realized that sometimes life's wrong turns led to the most unexpected destinations. Her empty altar had ultimately guided her to this moment, this man, this second chance at a love born not from fantasy, but from the messy, beautiful reality of two imperfect people choosing each other, day after day. Some vows didn't require witnesses or ceremonies. The most binding promises were those written on the heart, reaffirmed with each new dawn, and this was just their first chapter.